Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Today's show, we're going to talk about where the football team is halfway through spring training. We'll talk about the quarterback competition in segment 2, and then, of course, Derek Vandygriff comes in to talk about the Ole Miss Baseball series win at Kentucky. First time since 2014, by the way. So this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, hit the bell for notifications and new videos going up, which happens quite frequently, and upvote the video itself. And a reminder that if we hit 1,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel by football season, we will do a live show for the post game of the football season with Ole Miss legends. We have one that's agreed to it, and we're trying to wait to see about another. So, got a lot of stuff going on there. So, it should be a lot of fun. So, we are going in, today is like the 7th practice in spring practice. So what does that mean? How does that go? What does it look like halfway through? Because that's essentially where we are. After we get through practice, when we start the practice on Thursday, we're at 8 of the 15. So we're over half of the way done, and 7 will be just under half the way done. So exactly what point should we be at? And the question is, when you think about it, what do players hope to be getting out of it at this point? How does the quarterback competition look? How does the receivers competition look? How does the running back room look? How does the defensive line look? It's individual questions for individual units. And I'm thinking that the big winner in this camp is the tight end room. Michael Trigg yesterday, we talked about his emergence as a star player. He's a young guy, but he did play at USC some as a freshman. But I don't know if he's a redshirt freshman or a sophomore. I should know that by now. I just didn't look it up. Didn't plan on doing that. But his experience going forward means that he's not just a true freshman going through the system with the team this spring. So his accessibility to both Luke Altmyer and Jaxson Dart is a huge plus of this team. And him emerging as an added weapon to go with Zach Evans, Ulysses Bentley IV, Quinshon Judkins, those guys at running back, because this team is going to start off as a running team because you have a young quarterback. They're going to lean on the run game and let the quarterbacks grow into a better role with the team. And we are fortunate to have as talented of a running back room as honestly we have probably ever had at Ole Miss. So I'm pretty excited about that. But there's just a lot of stuff to go in. They halfway through it. You want the quarterback competition. Is it here or is it here with the experience gap? We'll talk about that in the second segment. Defensive line, there's a little bit of depth on there. No real standouts yet, but a little bit of depth. But Cedric Johnson was kind of the dude last year. He's going to be the one to take over for Sam Williams. I mean, he had 6 sacks last year. Sam Williams had 12, half of them. With him being the guy, is he going to make that move over? Damon Clowney, J.J. Pegues, the kid from Germantown, Katie Hill. There's players everywhere. Tawan Malone. The defensive line, all along the front, there's players. This is such a different thing than just 3 years ago at Ole Miss. Do you remember the 2018 defense at Ole Miss? I mean, I'm sure everybody does. But does everybody remember that? Actually, comment on when the last time we had a defense as talented as the one that's projected to be this year. I mean, we could have a top 30 defense this year. When's the last time we had a defense that was that talented? 2014, 2003, 2008. I mean, those are the big ones that popped up in the last 20 years. But I'm curious what you think about that. So leave that comment below in the comment section below. But there's just questions that are going to go back and forth. At linebacker, is Kari Coleman and Troy Brown making the plays necessary? They offered a linebacker that's transferring out of Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee State University. Is that a sign that the linebacker play isn't where they hoped it would be? Is it just a lucky thing where they're best availing it? I do not know, but the players that are being offered in the transfer portal on the defensive side of the ball, by the way, other than Deion Smith, I think that's pretty much a lock. We'll see exactly what happens. A reminder, by the way, we provide commentary and perspectives. That is why we're here. We talk about the orbit around Ole Miss sports, including the narratives that other people are saying. We're not about breaking news. We don't try to break news. We don't want to break news. We just tell you what's being talked about around the orbit of Ole Miss sports. And this is the one place that you can go to and hear that for free without anybody trying to make any money off of you. But there's players that are making jumps. You don't hear much about the defensive line. The linebackers, you worry about those players being talked about as options in the transfer portal. What does the defensive backfield look like? How does the offensive line look with Mason Brooks on the right and Jeremy James on the left? How does that look like? The backfield, I'm okay with the backfield. As good as the backfield was last year, I'm curious to see what it's going to look like this year. Wide receiver, Jordan Watkins at slot, Jalen Cox at slot, potentially Deion Smith, Jonathan Mingo. There is a prospect for them to be really good. There also is a prospect for them to be a problem on the team. But it is what it is. I mean, these guys have a chance to do good, but we'll see about Deion Smith and whether he actually does what is necessary to pull the trigger and does what is necessary once he pulls the trigger. But saying all that to say this, spring training is about where it needs to be, honestly. It's about where you want it to be. And because of that, there's 8 more practices left. And later on today, we'll have the extra video, the press conference highlights, and Lane Kiffin. And he's going to talk all about what's going on. And he's probably going to talk about the scrimmage that just happened, the whole 9 yards. But it should be good because we're having fun doing this, honestly. And it's a lot of fun, and it's not life or death. And understand that this is for Ole Miss fans. If you are outside and learning about Ole Miss and interesting about Ole Miss, great. We're glad to have you. But don't think this is anything other than an Ole Miss fans YouTube channel. Because that's why we're here. Commentary and perspectives of the Ole Miss football team. So it should be good. Anyway, this is the time of year when I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It'll be delicious, and it'll be good for you. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it about the taste first, and then they figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. So this is what you do. Here's the offer. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15, all one word, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Do us a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, we are going to do a live post-game report of Ole Miss football. So we need to hit that before football season. Right now, we have a yes from one Ole Miss legend, and we're trying to get a yes from another. But either way, we are going to be here to talk about Ole Miss football immediately after the game all season long. So it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, the quarterback competition, we've told you over and over again, and we talked about how it was a quarterback competition. And that Luke Altmyer, the way he wins is by being the most efficient, most machine-like quarterback in the world. And that is what's happening. Luke Altmyer looked really good, really efficient this weekend. And Jaxson Dart with his gunslinger mentality, his Brett Favre mentality. And Matt Corral was a gunslinger. Okay? In 2018 and 2019, even in 2020 Matt Corral was a gunslinger. He thought he could make every throw. So he tried to make every throw. And it took him growing out of that and developing for that to change. Now, this is the thing to remember about Luke Altmyer and Jaxson Dart. They are like Matt Corral in 2019. Not Matt Corral in 2021. Matt Corral in 2019. There's plenty of development for both of them. Now, we've told you all, month long, the whole time, talking about the quarterback competition for the whole month of March and into April. There was an experience gap with Luke Altmyer, a comfort in the offense of knowing exactly what to do. If that goes down to that, that's major advantage Jaxson Dart. Luke Altmyer's only real hope of winning this job is to keep that completely extended until fall camp. And once you get to fall camp, this is like you get to the second half, get to the fourth quarter, anything can happen. But if you lose the game, you can lose the game early, but you can't win it. So it's important to keep that experience gap exactly where it was when it started. And, that's kind of where we are right now, 7 practices in. The experience of working in the system is helping Luke Altmyer. And he's very efficient, very methodical. Jaxson Dart is toolsy and has all the talent in the world, and this is in no way over. Not even close. I don't even think it's even begun, honestly. Because right now, Jaxson Dart's still doing the acclimation phase of him learning how to do everything and doing the best and swimming a little bit. Remember, Jaxson Dart came from an air raid system at USC under Clay Helton, where they ran completely different plays, a completely different offense. And now he's asked to run this completely different thing. This thing that Charlie Weiss is putting in and Lane Kiffin and doing that, it's completely different. It's all about speed. It's all about tempo. It's actually an incredibly simple offense to run because you have to be to go fast, but that speed means quicker reads. So it's a lot of mental work. But Jaxson Dart will get there, absolutely. But Luke Altmyer has that advantage now. And right now he's holding steady after 7 practices at that experience gap. So it's a great thing. Like I said, this is the one storyline that people are going to care about going into really Labor Day. But this quarterback competition is everything. People will try to downplay it. They'll even try to downplay spring practice. It's not. These reps matter, potentially more so than any team in Ole Miss history. These reps matter. And this, where you end up at the end of spring and into fall camp, matters. You need to try to be leading going into fall camp. Whenever that depth chart is posted, you want to be leading. If you're not, you've got an uphill climb, and you have to expend a whole amount of energy trying to catch up. So we'll see. Coming up after this, Derek Vandygriff. We wait about 24 hours after the last game to actually record with Derek, so this is after a day to get his thoughts on what's going on with the Ole Miss baseball team. That is by design. So you don't get hot takes and everything going on. You actually get good, solid analysis. And we talk about Ole Miss baseball going against Kentucky, Alabama. We even go through the SEC a little bit. So that's coming up after this from BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcast, and reviews for different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. You can leave a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to. Just leave a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. And also a reminder to you, if our YouTube channel hits 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be doing a live post-game show come football season with Ole Miss legends attached. I already have one. I'm waiting to hear back from the second one. I'm here with Derek Vandygriff. We are going to talk about the series that got a little bit scary, but they were able to pull it out. How you doing, Derek?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, man. Ole Miss went up to Lexington, won the series for the first time since 2014. The bats were kind of dead on Friday and Saturday night, and then about the fifth inning, they just woke up. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's kind of the concern this past weekend. We were able to get guys on base here and there, but outside the first inning, we weren't really able to push anything across either Friday or Saturday. They did come alive after a few innings on Sunday. We need to start getting Calvin Harris in there. He played on Saturday, and that was it the entire weekend, and that was the game we ended up benching Chatagnier, giving him a days off. And quite frankly, if that's what we got to do to get Calvin Harris's bat in the lineup the way he's swinging as opposed to Chat right now, I love Peyton Chatagnier and all, but we got to have something going with that offense, and Calvin Harris hitting everything in sight right now.
Yeah, Calvin Harris doing a heck of a job. And like I said, the bats woke up on Sunday. Tim Oko hit a ball that probably hasn't landed yet. The announcers were joking about whether or not you could hit one out to left. And Elko just walked out and just muscled one out of the yard like it was nothing. And then you have Gonzalez with a homer and McCants with a big fly. So it was nice to see them wake up and kind of get going. You saw some solid contact. And I think that's good for the lineup, especially with Southern Miss, which might be the best team in the state of Mississippi this year.
Yeah, they've played really well. They're 19-8 and 33 RPI. We do give them in the midweek, so we don't have to face any of their weekend starters, you wouldn't think. But it's always been a tough task for us to go down to Pearl and play Southern Miss. They always play us tough down there, so we're going to have to bring our best down there and really, really need this one.
Yeah, that guy that they had in the regional last year that just knocked the ball all over the park. Yeah, I don't think he's back. I think he went pro.
No. Yeah, he did.
But, I mean, they're just a heck of a ball club. And I think, what is it going to be John Gaddis tonight?
I don't really know where they're going to go with. That's what's going to be so interesting. He only threw, 2 2/3, I think, the entire weekend. Came in for 2/3 of an inning Friday, and I think threw 2 innings on Sunday. So he didn't pitch a whole lot. So, I mean, yeah, you could see. One person I know you better not see out there is Jack Washburn. He finally got his shot, and boy, was he good for us on Sunday.
Man, he threw strikes, and we've been talking about him. If he could just throw strikes, he had really great starter-level stuff, and he put it together against Kentucky. And just other than that one high fastball that somebody was able to get on top of and send it deep, and he just looked great.
Yeah, he did, and really you got to give credit to Bianco the way he handled the pitching staff all weekend. I know Saturday the score doesn't really indicate it, but we actually did pitch pretty well Saturday too. Outside of that Burford error on that stolen base attempt, if he ends up catching that and into the inning, then we end up getting out of that up 1-0, and it could be a completely different ball game. But everything just kind of unraveled after that, right? So fielding, I know we've talked about it for a while now, how bad it's been. And that's something we've really got to clean up this pitching staff. It's hard enough to get 27 outs. When you're asking them to get 30, 31 outs, that's a whole nother monster.
Yeah, and that and base running, and we had a runner thrown out at the plate. So it was like a twofer, but almost won the game. So whenever the fielding messes up and a batter gets thrown out at the plate, the bats come alive. So maybe that's what was necessary for them to do.
Yeah.
But going back, talking about Saturday, Hunter Elliott pitched a whale of a game. And he obviously had nerves in the first inning, but he really settled down and looked really good, just moving along. Yeah,
that's another guy, you've talked about for, Lord, a month and a half now. It seems like we want to see him get a shot, and he finally got his. He's got really, really good stuff. His fastball's good. His command's good. He's got a big breaking ball that really keeps hitters off balance. And he'd given up 2 runs, both of them unearned, though, because of that error we were talking about just a little while ago. You definitely need to give him another shot out there. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the weekend rotation, if he kind of tweaks it a little more going into this weekend or not, because DeLucia pitched a heck of a game on Friday night, going 6 1/3 for us, who saw that coming? So you may have to run him back out there on Friday and just get everything you can out of him. And kind of like we've talked about, using all of these arms that we have so much depth in that bullpen, not really go off and just say, these are our starters and they got to go get us 5-6 innings, and just get outs where you can get them and then bring the next guy in. And however you can do to get 27 outs in the game.
And I really like the combination of DeLucia then to Gaddis. I think they're stylistically they match up, and it's a nice contrast. And on Friday night, and it worked. It just shut Kentucky's bats completely down.
Yeah, it was a real good game plan by them. You know, I find it hard to believe when they talked about it last week when they decided they were going to go with DeLucia, if they were thinking they were going to get, 19 outs out of him, but it was probably the plan to get out there and let him go as far as he can, then bring Gaddis in. A little soft tossing as far as DeLucia goes. He's more pinpoint, high 80s, low 90s fastball, so it does keep him off balance. So it is a good contrast, like you talked about, bringing him in to piggyback DeLucia.
Yeah, and then you go from Gaddis to Brandon Johnson, and that's just smoke. That's just nasty.
Play 5 strikeouts in 2 innings. He faced 6 batters. I mean, they just couldn't touch him. That's actually who I thought you might see open up on Friday, just see what you could get out of him, since he is really your best pitcher. They ended up saving him. It worked out pretty well for us.
Yeah, Brandon Johnson is kind of reminding me a little bit of Parker Corechi. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of turning into that closer. I didn't really see that coming last year, but you see the development of him in the back end of the rotation, and he's a weapon back there. If you can get to him with the league, it's almost an automatic at this point.
Oh, yeah, and then, there's kind of a track record of this, too. You brought up Parker Cracy, but you look at Taylor Broadway last year, and that was more necessity because we didn't have a whole lot of arms to get from our starter to him. We did have Johnson and Doherty came on late and everything, but we asked a lot of Taylor Broadway, and he was able to give us multiple innings at the back end of that bullpen.
Yeah, and a heck of a pitcher. He did some stuff like – the third game of the Arizona series, people can talk about starting Taylor or what they were going to do, but we just didn't have any pitchers. Tommy John took Hoagland, and that just kind of threw everything out of whack.
Yeah. When you lose a guy like Hoagland, you get to a do-or-die game in the super regionals like that, you got to throw your best pitcher out there, and that's what Mike did, and it didn't work out for us, so that sucks. But he absolutely did the right thing getting Taylor out there and trying to let him give us a chance to win the game.
All right, we got Alabama this weekend, and I am team sweep. I know it's hard to sweep. Winning 2 on his home series is always the goal, but I am team sweep because you got swept by Tennessee. You got put in a little bit of hole. So if you can sweep Alabama, all of a sudden you're like, I think, +1 up in the theory that every series at home is 2 wins. Every one on the road is 1 win, so anything above that or below it is the plus and minus. So that would get us to the +1 range before we start the gauntlet. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you have 2 opportunities this year to do that. You've got Alabama and Missouri. Those are your 2 sweep series, right? We talked last week, and I had us just winning 2 against Alabama and ended up sweeping Missouri, and that still got us to that magical 17 number that we're all looking for as far as conference play goes and being able to host and all that. But, yeah, Alabama's been so bad on the road, though. They haven't been great, period. But on the road in particular, they're 1-7 this year. Now, the one win they had was in the state of Mississippi, though. They did go down to Starkville and still won. So I guess you got to watch out for that. But, yeah, this is definitely one where you're looking to try to get 3 wins and get that conference record built up a little bit more and try to get some momentum going.
All right, what do we need to know about Alabama? Anybody that doesn't know that much, what do they need to know about Alabama?
They do have a pretty legitimate Friday night starter. Garrett McMillan, he's only 2-2, but he's got 3.05 ERA with 44 strikeouts and 41 innings. He's a pretty good pitcher. The 2 after that don't really control it particularly well, so they're going to be giving you extra outs that we really need to take advantage of. So if we can mix and match our pitching again this Friday, take that Friday night game, then we'll be set up real good to go ahead and sweep the rest of the series. They do have a real big arm at the back end of the bullpen. He's pitched really well this year too. Okay,
what about their batting order? How did they hit the ball?
They're like a 290 average team altogether. They only have 2 guys hitting over 300 for the entire year, and actually the one guy that is leading them in batting average, he doesn't have any home runs. There's not a lot of pop in the lineup. Their home run leader's only batting 265, so there's not a whole lot to worry about as far as the bats go. But at the same time, this is the SEC, if you mess around and slip one in strike zone or leave something hanging, somebody can drill one on you.
Hey, do they still have that second baseman that was so good last year?
I'm not sure.
I think he's gone. Yeah, the little left-handed guy that led off. He hit like 400. It doesn't sound like the averages are anywhere near that.
No. Oh, the one guy leading them, he's hitting like 365, so he's doing fine, But like I said, no runs. Now they do steal very efficiently. I think they're 22 for 27 in stolen bases, and usually that's something that we'd be okay with. But Hayden hadn't been just great behind the plate here lately.
Yeah, maybe Sunday woke him up a little bit. He had a pretty decent day at the plate. Nice job receiving. It was more of a Hayden performance that we're used to. So maybe that'll wake him up a little bit once he gets home.
Yeah, and with Hayden, his big thing is, we all know he's in the lineup primarily because of his defense. He's the best defensive catcher in the country. He receives well. He can gun anybody out. But sometimes when you're struggling at the plate like he is right now, you let your slumps on offense kind of translate to your defense. I think that may be what's going on a little bit. So kind of like you said, if he can get a couple more squeakers to get by the second baseman and all that, kind of get a little more confidence, and maybe he'll start playing a little bit better behind the plate. But if not, we sure enough got a guy back there that can do it.
Okay, and this is something I want to do moving forward now that we have Derek on the show. I want to talk a little bit about the SEC as a whole. Now that we have some conference series and a little bit of a sample size.
Yeah.
Tennessee went to Vanderbilt and absolutely swept the doors. They're like 2 wins away from the all-time start to an SEC season. This is a good team.
Yeah, that's, again, an understatement. I know we talked about it in depth last week, about how good Tennessee is. But when I saw, they were playing at Vanderbilt this week, and I said, well, if they start out with sweeping us on the road and then sweeping Vanderbilt, then those are 2 very, very high-profile sweeps you can put on your resume. And quite frankly, it just wasn't really close the entire weekend, just like it wasn't with us. I know we were in the game Sunday a little bit here and there, but I don't think it was really that much in doubt. And, yeah, Tennessee went and did it again. I'm kind of interested to see what comes of this whole bat fiasco, though. They had that bat taken from them on Friday. Apparently it's been sent off to get tested. There could be something to that if they find out that it was rolled or shaved or anything like that.
Yeah, and not bragging or anything, but on my post-game pods during that Tennessee series, I kept saying over and over, when they hit the ball, it's a lot more solid than Ole Miss hitting the ball.
Yeah.
You don't have those duck snorts. It was all just line drives and lasers.
Well, yeah, and even the ones that weren't, those still got out. I can't remember what the guy's name that hit it, but he hit one that looked like a
off the handle. I know what you're talking about.
And it looked like it was going to go about 20 feet into the outfield, maybe split Leatherwood and Elko and drop in. And that sucker carried all the way to the bullpen. I had never seen anything like that. As soon as I saw that, I thought, yeah, something's a little fishy here.
Yeah, it's reminiscent, honestly, of LSU and Gorilla Ball back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, like Eddie Furness at the plate, which his son is an Ole Miss signee, by the way. So, yeah, it was pretty good. Now, what else around the SEC do we need to know?
Well, South Carolina's kind of hard to figure out, right? They go and take 2 out of 3 from Texas, and then they go take 2 out of 3 from Vanderbilt 2 weekends ago. And then they come back and they lose 2 out of 3 against Missouri, who's supposed to be the worst team in the conference. I mean, it's just kind of weird how baseball works out that way.
Which Columbia was that at?
What's that?
Which Columbia was that at? Was that in Missouri, or did they actually pull it off in South Carolina?
I didn't see if that was a home or away series for them. Not real sure, but they seem to play up to their competition and also play down to it too. Something we've kind of grown accustomed to here in Oxford ourselves. We've seen our teams do that quite frequently. Georgia with a really impressive weekend going on the road and sweeping Florida. Georgia can really throw it, especially on Friday nights. That's kind of what you got to watch out for with them. They might have the best Friday night starter in the league now outside of Chase Burns up at Tennessee. That guy can really spin it. And, the 2 guys after him have pitched well enough to keep them in series, and, they're probably going to end up being the host team themselves out of the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely impressive. Also, Auburn took 2 out of 3 at LSU.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they won down there for the first time in forever.
Yeah, yeah. LSU doesn't throw it real well. They are even a worse fielding team than we are at this point, which is pretty incredible. But they can't field for their lives right now, and they're scuffling with their rotation, trying to figure out not only the starters but the bullpen too. Now they can hit with anybody. You know, us, Tennessee. I mean, they can really swing the bat. Problem is that they've got to score more than they give up, and that's been a problem for them right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Mississippi State, how's their season? I haven't honestly. Maybe I'm a bad Ole Miss fan, but I don't know exactly what the defending national champions are doing in baseball. So how do they look this year?
Well, yeah, that's the biggest difference between Ole Miss and State fans. We don't keep up with them near as much as they keep up with us, right? You know, we're focused on what we do. But State's, you know, they're fine. They're not going to be a host team. They went and got one at Arkansas, salvaged one Sunday in extra innings, you know, to avoid the sweep. If they can get going, which you don't put it past them, you've seen it so many times with Mississippi State team struggled earlier in the year. I think it was, 2013, I think it was, when they were just a bad baseball team at the beginning of the year. By the time the season went on, they were able to figure it out. Actually did a lot of what we're doing right now, completely scratched their starting rotation on the weekends, started using their bullpen depth, and it really worked out for them. So you definitely don't count them out, but with all the injuries piling up over there in Starkville, it's definitely going to be a long road ahead for them.
Yeah, and they're a team that if it keeps going the way it's been going, they're looking at maybe being a 2 seed at Pete Taylor Park at Southern Miss, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that really. I mean, probably off reputation alone, it'd probably be hard for the committee to put them any lower than a 2 seed, but from where they're at right now, I mean, they're certainly not deserving of a 2 seed yet. I mean, a 3, yeah, I could absolutely see that. But they definitely have work to do, though, which playing in the SEC, you've got all kind of opportunities to bolster your resume and your RPI. And like I said, being defending national champions, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt come selection time.
Yes, thank you. And then thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first and listen every day. Tomorrow we will talk about today's practice and everything that came from it. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Man, Derek, thank you very much. I know you got a daughter, you got to get to dance, but thank you for coming on and dropping a little wisdom on for us.
I appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Enjoyed it.
All right. Hi, Toddy.
Hotty toddy.